Hello and welcome to the Lake District Yogi. My name's Kat and welcome to afternoon tea. My invitation for you today is to make yourself a cup of tea and just come and have a chat with me. You know, there's so many beautiful things about yoga that it's just gorgeous to talk about. It can feel quite isolating, I guess. It's a practice that quite often we do on our own. It's just us and our mats at home. So it can be nice to talk to other people about their yoga journey and how yoga has impacted them, what it's brought to their life, especially if you are very new to this yoga thing, if you're just starting your journey. I thought I'd share a little bit about my own and how I came to love it so much that I wanted to teach it and share it with other people. So, make yourself a cup of tea and I'll tell you a little story. Many years ago, so we're talking at least 25 years ago, I was living in a town, in a little shared house, and at the weekend, maybe it was a Friday night, I can't remember, a whole load of us would meet and we'd go to our favourite pub. And there was a quiz and there was, a really friendly pub. The landlady was gorgeous. She knew all our names. You know, when you're young and you have that whole setup going on in your town, and it was gorgeous. And there was a girl that often came who I knew. She was a friend of a friend. She wasn't really a very good friend of mine, but I kind of was a little bit intrigued by her. She was an artist. She was just a really lovely person. And I noticed that quite often she would arrive quite late to this setup. She'd come in long after we'd all sat down and got our food or drinks or whatever. And sometimes I'd hear her say, "Oh, I'm sorry I'm late, I was doing yoga." And I became really intrigued by this. I mean, we're talking when I was quite a lot younger, so going to the pub and going out with your friends was that was what you lived for, wasn't it? There were not many things, I have to admit, that would have stood between me and hanging out with my friends on a Friday night. So I was intrigued by this. What was it about this yoga thing that she was doing that meant she prioritized it over coming out and socializing with us? So I knew I needed to find out a little bit more about this. And one day I happened to be at her house and I said to her, what is this? Whatever. I started asking her questions and she taught me a simple sun salutation. It was my first introduction to yoga, and I was instantly kind of hooked on it, more at the beginning on the idea of it, this kind of simple sequence of movements that felt so profound in my body. My body had never moved in that way before, that incorporated stillness and breath and strength and such a load of opposites, as I now know is so much of what yoga is. It's that grounding to reach, it's that strength and softness, it's all of those things. And I kind of, without knowing any of that, intuitively realized when I learnt my first sun salutation that there was way more to it than that simple, from the outside, that sort of simple sequence of moves. And so I got I didn't get a mat actually. For quite a long time I used a folded blanket on the floor, which was not ideal, and I started practicing my sun salutations. I went to a bookshop, and I bought a little pocket gems. They were, I don't even know if you can still get them anymore. They were little books about this big. And there was one for virtually everything. There was a pocket gems guide to dogs and a pocket gems guide to, I don't know, stamps or whatever, anything. And there was a pocket gems guide to yoga, and it was just yoga poses, photographs of yoga poses, very basic instructions. And I started using that, and it was a funny little book that would never stay open. So I was kind of trying to, it was all very much a kind of DIY yoga thing to start with. But I was definitely drawn to it. And every time I went into a bookshop, I would kind of gravitate towards that area, and I'd look at books on yoga, and I was just really becoming intrigued by it. Never crossed my mind, not once, to go to a class. I'm quite a solitary person. I didn't really like group things. This was definitely something I was doing on my own. Anyway, not long after that, probably 6 months or so after I'd had this first introduction to sun salutation, I went to Australia, and I was in Australia for a few weeks. And while I was in Australia, I was in a bookshop. I can remember it as if it was yesterday. And I found a book on yoga, and I bought it. And it was such a beautiful little book, and I still have it. I have it here. So it's a little black and white book by Jessie Chapman. The cover is her doing a pose I still can't do to this day. I don't think my anatomy will ever allow me to do that. But anyway, it looks beautiful. On a beach, really simple, silver book, gorgeous little shape. I mean, I'm a book lover and a book addict, so the aesthetics of this little book was beautiful. But when you look inside, each page, that you can see here, is black and white. There's a pose of her on the beach on one side and a really beautiful description on the other side. It's just a really simple book, black and white, and I loved it. And I bought it as my kind of main memento, really, of my little time in Australia. I didn't buy kangaroo things, or cuddly koala bears, or any of the kind of classic Australian things. I bought a little black and white book on yoga, and I got home and I carried on with my very solitary journey into yoga. And at the beginning, and for a very long time, and I mean years, it was really simple stuff. I mean, it is still really simple stuff, but I didn't have a great desire to do a one-armed handstand or any of these fancy things. To me, it was about being in my body. And I realize now with hindsight that was sorely lacking in my life. I was very much an in my head kind of person. I was incredibly anxious. I'd had years of mental health issues. I'd been very depressed. I had been on medication. Was struggling to find work that I really resonated. I was in a bit of a mess. And yoga, stepping onto my blanket, because again, it was years before I got a mat, stepping onto my blanket, opening my lovely little black and white book and doing some poses was enough. I mean, it really was it was so nourishing to me. And it's so funny that at the time I didn't know why. I didn't really go into anything other than it just felt good. It's only years and years later that I look back that I think, wow, that's why I was feeling like that, or that's what it was doing to me. And then the practice just built like it does. And then I eventually reached a point where I too was prioritizing my yoga. I was making sure I was getting on my mat every single day. I was wanting to learn more. I was hungry to learn more. I wanted to learn more about the yoga philosophy. I wanted to learn more about different types of yoga. I started sort of dabbling in various styles. I tried some Ashtanga yoga. I tried, all of the yin yoga, all the different things. But I just kept going, and I just kept going. And I think more than any other discipline, and I've used that word kind of lightly because I don't feel that this kind of practice is a discipline, but more than any other activity or practice I've done, yoga is the one that kind of took me with it. It took me. There was a momentum to it, and it just kept giving. It kept giving, and it kept giving. There was no point, and there is no point at which you arrive and you go, oh yeah, I've done that. I've done yoga now. It's joyful because there's always more to learn. Even now, having been a practitioner for 25 years, maybe more, every single day that I get on my mat, it feels new and fresh, because every day you get on your mat, you're in a different place, body and mind. You're in a different temperament, different mood, different energy level. You're never the same from one day to the next. And one of the most joyful things that yoga has taught me is that in action, that what everyone tells you every day, everything passes and everything changes. You see that when you come onto your mat every day. In the same way, if you do the same walk every day outside with your dog, or without your dog, you can walk without a dog, but you will notice the season changing. You'll notice those tiny incremental changes that happen, and you'll notice the change in light and the change in colour and all of that, more so than if you went out, 1 month to the next. And it's exactly the same on your yoga mat. When you get on your mat every single day, you start to see how things move through you, how a bad, grumpy mood one day is not there the next day. A tired body one day that feels like, oh, I can barely just manage child's pose. The next day is desperate for something really high energy. And I think that kind of living proof that we are just constantly changing our situation, our mood, our energy, everything is constantly in flux, is demonstrated so beautifully on our yoga mats. And it means that we start to realize that things don't linger. If you're having a bad day or a bad hour, or you're feeling sad or you're feeling angry, there's probably a reason why you're feeling that. It's probably a legitimate reaction to whatever is happening, and it will pass. It will pass, and by the next day or the next week, you'll be on your mat with a completely different set of things going on. That's just one of the many things I love about yoga. I actually could probably sit here for the rest of my life and talk about how much I love it. It's an individual thing. Everybody's going to have a different path into their yoga. Everybody's going to have a different experience. Some people like that high energy, some like to go to a class once a week, some like to do 10 minutes in the morning. It really doesn't matter. But me talking about my experience is not to say that anybody else is going to have that same experience. But I've been practicing long enough now, and I've been teaching now for probably 9 years, I think now. I've seen it. I've seen it again and again and again. Yoga changes people. Yoga changes people. People have come to me wound up, overly stressed, with massively high stress jobs, no time to themselves, really wound up. And over the course of weeks and months and years, I have watched them change and transform, not just their being, their physical body, or their stress levels, but their attitude to themselves, to their own well-being, their attitude to their work-life balance, their attitude to, it's so much more than what we do on the mat. It's to ready you, prepare you for what's out there. It's to make you feel better able to live a really good life. So not only does it make you feel great in your body at the time, and the next day you'll feel, oh yeah, loosey and juicy and everything's feeling good, and you're feeling strong in all the right places and soft in all the right places. And not only does it make you breathe properly, so you're really regulating yourself, it also makes living better. It makes it easier to go out there and be a human. It makes you have better relationships and all of these things. It's just joyful for me. My hope and dream is that whoever is watching this, or anybody that's ever taken any of my classes online, feels a little bit of that. If you're brand new to this and you get even a glimmer of feeling inside you that, whoa, this feels good in my body, this feels good to breathe in this way, this feels good to have some time to myself, keep going, keep going, keep going, because I promise you it will only get better and better and better. It's a lifelong practice that keeps on giving. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I found it. I'm so happy that I've dedicated so much of my time to it. I don't regret a single minute I have ever spent on my mat. I'm so happy that I pushed myself way out of my comfort zone, to do a yoga teacher training. I've then done subsequent training. I'm still friends with some of the people I met on my yoga teacher training. It was such a good decision, and teaching yoga has brought me nothing but joy. It's a brilliant ride, this yoga lark. So I'm going to stop there, because I meant it when I said I probably could talk all day. Thank you for joining me with a cup of tea. I think it's really nice to have these slightly longer chances to listen to somebody's story and to share our lives with each other. I'm so conscious that so much of the online world is these short, fast little videos that are messing with our heads. Community is suffering, I think, from that. So any opportunity to provide something just slightly more chilled and nourishing for us as humans, then I'm all for it. So if you've stayed to this point, I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. I know I can ramble somewhat when it comes to a topic I love as much as this one. Anyway, I will be back with more afternoon tea. I've got way more that I want to share with you about yoga, but that was just my story. And if you are new to yoga and you're feeling that it's actually hard, and that's the bit I haven't touched on, it can be challenging, especially if you are not used to being in your body, like actually feeling embodied, if you're not used to breathing in that way, if you're not used to having time to yourself or being quiet and still. Our restless mind can make that really challenging. So it's not all easy, and if you're struggling, then just keep going. Just keep going, little by little by little. It will start to work its magic. Feel free to drop a comment or ask me any questions, or let's get a little conversation going about this. And always, always keep drinking your tea, keep getting on your mat, and keep looking for all the beauty and joy in life, because there's so much of it. And together, when we're all looking for it and we're all sharing it and spreading it, we'll make the world a better place. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for afternoon tea. I will see you again very soon. Bye.